Hello, theme park enthusiasts, and welcome back to Planet Coaster. In the last episode, we finished off, or at least for the time being, finished off this entrance area for the Warner Brothers Studios park. In this next episode, we're going to continue building along Main Street here, and you can see some of the buildings already. In this episode, you'll see how they're created, and then I'll walk you through what I've done and sort of my mentality of where I'm wanting things to go in the park. So with that in mind, let's jump in and continue with the build. I am really happy with the way this came out looking. So let me walk you through what we've got here. We'll start over at the beginning here because I had an idea for a few of these buildings at the beginning and then I sort of let it take shape organically from there. I wanted to put in a bank because much like the restroom I put in the last episode, there are certain things you want to ensure that your customers have available. Now, yes, I did put in an ATM over in this store in the last episode because you would want to make sure that they have that access to money. But here, I needed a building that I felt was themed anyways, and I felt like this would be a great place to ensure that no guest needed money at any point while they were in the park. If they had forgotten money or if, tickets and such had been a bit more than they were expecting, they needed to top off their cash flow, they'd be able to go in here and handle it. Now, there would probably be people in here, not just ATMs, to help them with that issue. I also knew I wanted to put in a buffet here for guests. Now, I had to make it work as best I could with the restaurant situation here in-game. This restaurant's going to run a lot of money because of the amount of different items that we're selling on the menu. So it doesn't function perfectly as a buffet, and it will probably lose money in-game. But my mentality with this is based on a restaurant that my wife and I went to on our honeymoon at Disney World. We were in the Magic Kingdom, and there is a buffet that is just off of Main Street, USA, where you can sit down. There will be different costume characters such as Winnie the Pooh and Tigger and such that will come around the restaurant, come to your tables, take pictures with you and your kids, everything of that nature. And at the same time, there are lovely windows that look out towards sort of the focal feature of the castle that is there at Disney World. I wanted to have something that was similar to that. I wanted something with a nice amount of windows that would look out in all directions and see the different environments that are available. Over here we have some nice greenery, and you'd be able to catch the boats that are going out onto that section that's going to be part of the next area. This direction will have something similar where you'll be able to see into that area perhaps a little bit. In this direction, I already have planned a center feature over here that this set of windows is going to be able to look out onto. It's not going to be a castle. I'm not going to just steal blatantly from Disney on that. It is going to be something that is Warner Brothers themed. So take your guesses if you want as to what that might be. And then the windows over here face out onto these different little buildings that we have on the other side, which perfectly transitions us into our next area. Now, I had an idea for some time when I wanted to build a Studios park of doing a car ride near the entrance. And there was two reasons for this. Originally, my idea that I haven't gone with in the end was that I was going to have car rides on both sides of the street that actually crossed over the street on bridges, giving some interesting visual interest to this area. One reason I didn't go with that is because I do like the idea of a parade, and I did not want something going over the area that could be problematic for the parade. Those sort of ramps, yes, they would be high enough, but they wouldn't be too high, and it could cause problems with parade floats and such, and I just didn't want that to be a thing. So I sort of nixed that idea, and that's where I came up with the expanded area here. The other reason for a Cars ride, though, actually deals with the area I'm going to have over here. I'm not going to tell you what this area is by any means yet, but I will say that it is going to be themed around a town or a city. You could argue over which it is. But with that, since it is themed to be a town or city, I wanted it to have the feeling of a town or city. And so for that, I needed moving vehicles, because any normal town is going to have cars going around it. So I figured, why not kill two birds with one stone? I could get the feeling of realism that I wanted for the town, and at the same time, I could put in another ride. So I wanted the Cars ride. This particular style of car, not the pink maybe, but the particular style of car fits the time period of the town that I'm wanting. So I felt like this was a perfect fit. With that in mind, then, I had to decide, did I just simply want it to be a Cars ride? And I thought, this is a perfect opportunity to add in another license from Warner Brothers. And this is a particular license that I know is very popular, and I'm about to say something possibly that will be controversial to some people. But I have no interest in the Barbie movie myself. I've never watched the Barbie movie. I have no intentions on watching the Barbie movie. I'm sure for those people who enjoy that type of movie, it was a wonderful movie. I've heard that it had really good reviews. For me, though, I felt like I needed to touch upon Barbie for this park because it is a major brand for Warner Brothers, and it would allow them to put yet another shirt into their stores and such. For myself, though, it's not something that I really wanted to delve into too much. So again, I felt like this was the ability to kill two birds with one stone. I could deal with having the Barbie movie as part of my park, and at the same time, I could get the cars that I needed to go over to this area. So with that in mind, we went with the nice pink and white building here to fit the colors of Barbie. Still need to change some of the costumes of some of the people to sort of fit the color scheme for Barbie, but I will do that at a point in the future here. Then the inside of the building, again, I didn't really deem too much. I did put the wood floors throughout because I do want to be able to take guests on this car ride, so I wanted this to at least look decent. And I had that in mind as I was sort of kitting out the inside. I probably will even go so far as put some pink brick around that area. This area I'm not as worried about because of the fact that you don't see it from on ride. This is the only wall that we'll see when we come around here. You have this wall that blocks it off, so it won't affect the imagery of being on ride. And again, I'm just trying to keep the piece count down as much as I could. So then we travel through this pink tunnel on either side, doesn't really matter which one we go with. I put in the flooring here to sort of fit the theming, and at the same time to hide the fact that the tunneling feature was digging into the ground. Then with that, I found these different assets for Barbie that had been created on the store. I liked them. I really did. I thought that whoever spent the time to build them did a really lovely job. I mean, this one's very, very basic, but I felt like it fit around the corners here. This one in the middle, somebody spent some serious time trying to make as detailed as they did, and I found that really impressive. I wanted to make sure that I put it in here. The only thing I wasn't sold about is the car, but it's a fantasy sort of place. So I decided to leave the car as it is. We will turn on the nighttime here so you can sort of see how this will work at night. I put some pink lighting under the buildings at the edges to give just that pink glow to it, and I left the lighting on the center building as it was. Now, as I said, this sort of gives it the Barbie movie portion here, and then I do know in the Barbie movie you move out into the real world. So as far as this ride is concerned, what you're going to see over here in this new area is just going to sort of feel like the real world. So it's not going to break the illusion, I feel like, for the Barbie ride. And that's perfect. So for right now, I just have it coming out of the tunnel, turning back around. But the reality is, I have to design this whole area, and then this road is going to run through a lot of this area as you drive around on that. This water, I felt like, was a nice little imagery here for this Barbie area. And at the same time, I need this water over here as well. It's going to play a role also in what's going on over here. So all of this, everything with the Barbie ride here is basically with the mentality of this area in mind. This area, as I said, is really the reason I am doing this entire park. It is the motivation for it, and I have exactly what I want in mind over here. The real question now is, can I pull it off and make what's in my mind into something that is functional? That's to be seen in a later date. So, once we had that ride in place though, the next thing was I needed to fill out this area. I did know that I sort of wanted an arcade at the end of this area across the street from my restaurant. Now, it is a theme park, so we're not going to have as much monetization of things like an arcade. Just a second, this just saw was floating, and That's going to bother me otherwise. So let me sink that down just a little bit there. There we go. But definitely did want to go ahead and have some form of cheap entertainment that people could enjoy. So here it is. I think there's only going to be a few places in the entire park where we're going to do things like claw machines and such. There is one in the next area that there will be something, not to this scale in it. And the whole reason for it is it fits the theme of the area. I could really care less if people use any of the machines in it, but I wanted it in the area because it will give that feeling towards that area. Here though, as I said, some kids will probably go in, put a couple of quarters into the machine, and that's great. It's more about just the overall engagement of the audience and ensuring that they're having a good time in the park. So I knew this building was going to go here, this building was going to be across the street from it, but that left this area here blank. And while on this side I was okay with putting in some greenery and such, I didn't want a bunch of empty space on both sides. After all, this is supposed to give you the feeling of being in a town. Having one building that's got some nice plants and stuff around it is one thing. But otherwise, I wanted it to feel a little bit constrained. I wanted it to feel like you were going through this building covered area. And at the same time, I wanted to use them to hide some of the things in the background, such as the Barbie ride there. I might need to even still bring up this hill a bit more over in this area to block out the view of that ride. Because from the ground here, you can still see it a little bit. So I need to raise that hill just a tiny bit to make that work. And I probably will in between the episodes. So I thought, I could use some other kind of a restaurant here. Why not link it to the Barbie ride? Because when I built the Barbie ride, as I said, I knew it was sort of, I was throwing something in to cover another brand, and I wasn't doing a great service to it. So with that mentality in mind, I was like, it does deserve a little bit more. I could see doing sort of a very feminine shop. Now, personally, I would have liked this to be more of a high-end store. I think Barbie-themed merchandise could really work well. Maybe even have, if they could work out a deal with, say, one of the name handbags out there and such. I know my wife loves, like, the Loungefly ones and whatnot. But any of the different brands would have been a great thing to do something pink and white in. For right now, though, I don't have that ability in the game because we don't have all those brands. You can't sell merchandise, as I sort of said with the store, in a way that's that functional. So instead, I decided, you know what? I'm going to go with marshmallows. I think that'll work nicely. I think it'll be cutesy. And it also allowed me to stick in a first aid station here and another restroom. Again, people have been walking for a little ways, especially if they've been in line for a while for the Barbie ride or on the Barbie ride, which is gonna be a long ride by the time it gets through that area back there. Then they're gonna need to use the restroom. So we'll have it right next door so it's there for their convenience. So with that in mind, I had this building, I had this building, and I had this space in the middle. And I was racking my brain for what to do with it. Then I thought about the fact of two different things. For one, I didn't have a water tower in my park, and almost every Studios park in the world has a water tower. It's almost sort of obligatory that you have a water tower for your Studios park. I thought it would be a perfect place for a water tower, but I realized that the ones in-game, it wasn't going to get the height that I wanted to be able to sort of show off from the entrance with the size of the buildings I already put in place. And then the second thing is, again, drawing back to my honeymoon, I remembered when we were at Universal Studios that we saw different areas in the park where they had sort of meet and greet areas. They didn't call them meet and greets per se, but it was sort of just barely themed areas where they could have actors from different trademarks that they had come out, take pictures with kids, shake hands, make jokes, all that kind of stuff, then go back in, change out a costume. And I thought that would be perfect for this area. So I went ahead, built a studio style building because I felt that was appropriate for the type of park. Put in a little bit of studio equipment around it, which also helps with the lighting for the area, which I felt was a great win. I felt this also worked to put in some spotlights here since it is sort of studios themed. And then I could put the water tower on top, giving it the height that I wanted, and that the spotlights will, at points in time, sort of flash over it here. We'll see it here in a second, hopefully. And with that, it'll light up the different logos of Warner Brothers on it. Just like that. So that way, as you're in the park, you might be looking back just before you leave for the night. Now, the logo fades out some because of the distance and whatnot, but you get what I'm saying. You'd be able to have that lasting image looking down this pathway there. And that's what this area is all about, is imagery and lasting memories. I want to ensure that the guests have as good of a time as possible here. Now, you saw I went through several of the DC characters because obviously DC is another one of those licenses that is important for Warner Brothers. So, I had some figures that came from one workshop creator. I decided not to use those here because they look sort of plastic. And while I have an idea already in mind for an area in a park, I won't even say this park, but for a park that will use those plastic-like figures, this wasn't it. Here I wanted something that looked much more real, and so I found this version of the Joker that looked like it actually is an actor playing the role. The last thing I need to do in this area still is I'm gonna need to add in one of those focal points here so that way people stop and possibly take pictures and such. Other than that, I feel like the area is taken care of pretty well. I think it looks exactly as I had wanted it to, and as I said, it gives that entrance to the park that I feel is both grand, gives the services that the guests need, and excites them for what is to come. As I said, my plan for this is that this street is going to go off and around in a big circle of the park. Might be more a rectangle than a circle, but we're splitting hairs on semantics there. We are going to have some water in this center area, and then there is going to be a building or buildings also in this center area. So when you're coming down this main street, just like in a Disney park or any of those type of style parks, you will have that visual feature that you're looking at that gets you excited for being here. And that is what I'm going for. Now I will say, this building is either going to be the second or third expansion to the park. I already know what this is going to be. I definitely know what this is going to be, and this is without a question the first area. This, I know what it's going to be as well. So the question will be if I do this or the area by Hell's Aquarium as my second one. And I'm going back and forth on it. I'll sort of play it out, I think, and we'll see how things go after this area over here. Now I can tell you, if you're watching this, I have already created this area, because the mentality I'm using as I'm talking right now is, I have no intention of releasing any of these videos on this park until this area over here is completed. Because the amount of work that I want to put into this area is going to be realistically absurd. It is going to take many months to do. And I am not willing in any way, shape, or form to be rushed on any of the details of what I'm doing over here. I care too much about this product coming out a very specific way and looking a very specific way. So with that in mind, as I said, if you're seeing this video, it means that what I have intended over here is done. And over the next couple weeks, you will get to see the videos that cover that. My plan, at least right now, and maybe it'll have changed by the time you see this area over here, is that's when I will release the videos. I will then start work on either this section or that section next. But there will probably be a gap in publication of videos between when these come out covering this whole location here and whatever area I do next. Because I'm still going to put in a ton of detail, and I'm still going to work very hard at making those areas what I want them to be. It's just, after this area is done, I am willing to publish the videos for you guys to enjoy and to publish this portion of the park for you to enjoy on the workshop. For now, though, this is where we are. Next week here, I'm going to start diving into the massive project of that first area. But I hope that you enjoy what I've done so far in the park. I really am pleased with it. I like how it looks during the daytime, and I like how it looks at nighttime. I think it's got the feel that I was wanting. If you enjoyed what I've done, though, please go ahead and click that like button. If you've not already, please subscribe to the channel, click the bell icon, so that you're aware when I produce new videos in the future. Thank you, and I hope to see you all again for more Planet Coaster, and for more of Warner Brothers Studios.